Dear students, welcome to you. Today we're going to start with chapter 3, Reproduction in Living Organisms. Today we're going to start with this chapter 3 and learning more and more about the sexual and asexual reproduction in the living organism. Let's start our episode today. Reproduction in living organisms. This is our chapter today. Today we're going to start to learn more about reproduction, and also we need to know what's in by reproduction and different types of reproduction. Reproduction is the production of new individuals of the same kind, of the same type. But what about the importance of the reproduction in living organisms? Importance of reproduction in living organisms. We have a different importances for reproduction. Like what? Like survival of species or prevents extinction of species. Well, extinction is means they are dying out. Okay, like dinosaurs, they absolutely disappeared. This is the meaning of extinction of something or extinction of species. And also production of new individuals, new offsprings with new traits to adapt with the surrounding environment. And also we have a lot of importances, but right now we're going to learn something new, which is reproduction or the capacity of reproduction. Well, the reproduction rate or the capacity of reproduction, it depends on about 7 points in our lesson. The first one, to prevalent and ambient conditions, to adapt with the different conditions, environmental or definitely the hard environmental conditions. And what else? Well, also as the size of the living organism increases, the rate decreases. By the meaning, do you know that like human as a higher invertebrate, by increasing its size or by increasing the size of living organism, the rate or the number of reproduction decreases. So each 9 months, the human female, it can give just one birth, just one offspring. While on the other hand, when the living organism will be a very small, the number and the rate increases and so on. What else? As the age increases, the rate decreases. So logic. Well, by all the age increases in the living organism, like what? At the increasing the female in the her age, the rate of reproduction decreases because the number of ova is gonna be decreases also. And what else that we have in the capacity or the rate of reproduction? The aquatic forms that produce much more progeny or much more offsprings than the land forms. And you can observe that the fish and dolphins and most of the aquatic forms, they give a large number of eggs or large number of offsprings or large number of progeny. While on the other hand, the land form or the species that live on the land, they give us what? Just a few number or countable number of progeny or offsprings. And also, what about the parasitic forms? Well, parasitic form, let me to remind you the meaning of parasite. Well, we have 3 different types of living organisms. One of them is producer that can make its own food, like what? Like in any green plant, okay? And some type of bacteria. And some type like us, we call them as what? As consumers, that we depend on the green plants. And finally, the parasitic form. Parasite, like most of vermin that live inside our body, or some species that live outside our body, like bilharzia, where it depends on our body, that it gives us, take the food from our body, at the same time, it conveys or give us disease. This is a parasitic form, which depends on another living organism. In the parasitic forms, the production is much more progeny. It gives us a lot of offspring than the what? Than the living organism that live in free form like any other living organism. And the reason here to compensate the number of losing, compensate mean here to returning back the number of losing of their offsprings or eggs, and so on. And also, we have a difference between the primitive forms to produce more progeny than developed forms. Well, let me to show something here. Well, the primitive forms mean what? What's the difference between primitive form and developed form? Well, primitive form, they are a primitive or less advanced living organism. Okay, like worms, much more like worms and some unicellular living organisms, while the developed forms that have a different systems, okay, like most of animals that has a digestive and respiratory and so on. Those are called advanced or developed forms, okay? Well, the primitive form, they give us a large number of progeny or large number of offsprings. On the other hand, what the developed or advanced form, they give us what? A little number or few number of progeny or offsprings. I hope that you got the difference between primitive and developed forms. Well, finally, we have what? The parental care. Well, parental care, it's mean what? It's mean caring of parents toward their offsprings. Okay, caring your dad, mom by yourself. Well, in the parental care or parents caring increases. Okay, so we can find another relation that the rate of reproduction decreases. Simply, if the female of higher vertebrate that gives just one individual each 1 year, okay, it will care with his individual or his offspring much more than the any animal or any living organism that gives about 100 or more of offsprings per year, okay, and it's simply just an inverse relation. So we have here an inverse relation between primitive and developed form by the number of progeny or number of offsprings. At the same way, we have also inverse relation. As the parental care increases, the rate of reproduction decreases and vice versa. Well, but I need you to note something here. Like what? We have an example, a nice example to clarify for you something here. To simplify, we have note that dinosaurs and other giant reptiles, have you asked yourself before why they are disappeared from the life? Why the dinosaurs absolutely disappeared from the life? Well, the main reason here is because they failed to reproduce. Okay, they failed to adapt with hard environmental condition, or we can summarize it by they failed to reproduce. And also, the presence of individuals around us that indicates on something, indicates me that a clear-cut evidence for us, okay, for what? For successing their ancestors, I mean the old species, okay, to reproduce and also to face and to adapt with the hard environmental conditions. So we have here two great examples, okay. One of them, they are failed in reproduction, so they are absolutely extinct or disappeared. They already dying out. There is no anymore of their species like dinosaurs. On the other hand, we have what? Some species they can adapt with the hard environmental conditions, and their ancestors can face most of these conditions, so they are exist right now, and the final result, they can what? They can adapt to the hard environmental condition. Right now, we're going to start the methods of reproduction. Well, actually, we have two main methods of reproduction, which is what? Number one, we're going to start with asexual reproduction. And asexual, it means that we need just one individual. Okay? Let's us to start in this meaning, asexual reproduction. It is what? It is the isolation of a body part either a spore cell or many cells or tissue and its growth. Well, isolation, it's mean to separate a part of body, okay? And the isolation or to separate a part of body, it has a different forms, like what? Like spores, okay? As we go into to study it, like bread mold fungus and most of fungi, and also some type part of the living organism like starfish, as we're going to start in the regeneration type. Well, so asexual reproduction means what? Isolation or separation of a body part by a different ways. A spore cell, many cells, or even a tissue, and it's can be growth can be grow and give us what? A new individual, and also can compensate the lost part. Well, after that, the asexual reproduction, it happens by mitotic division. Mitotic division, which it doesn't need a reduction of number of chromosomes. Okay, simply like when you hurt yourself, cut a part of your body. Okay, and this part is compensated, the lost cells. These lost cells, they are compensated by mitotic division or mitosis division. Well, simply it keeps the number of chromosomes as it is. So by mitosis, the asexual reproduction, it happens by mitotic division to form what? A new organisms that resemble, it's mean to look like, absolutely to look like, okay? Just a copy paste from the original form. This is about the asexual reproduction. And what else? What about the importance of it? Let's say to figure it out. Number one, it happens at any age. For example, we have a worm. If you cut a part of this worm, this part, it gives us a new individual. Okay, so this is called asexual reproduction. So it happens at any age. It doesn't need a specific age or maturity time as in the sexual reproduction. Number two, it also happens any individual. We need just one, but doesn't need the both of them, male or female. And what else? It gives a large number of individuals. Okay, and on the other hand, we have a very contradictory to the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction, it gives us a little and a few number of individuals, while asexual reproduction, it gives us a large number of offsprings. And what else? It also usually happens. It usually happens under a suitable conditions. What does it mean under suitable conditions? Actually, we have most of living organisms, they reproduce by two different ways. Under suitable conditions, okay, or hard environmental conditions, they can reproduce asexually. Okay, and when the environment conditions will be favorable, they reproduce sexually and so on. So it happens under a suitable conditions. Okay, not at any conditions in the environment. And what else? Most common in plant kingdom, whatever they are, higher plants or lower plants. Higher plants like what? Most of flowering plants, any plant that form a flower or that form seeds, we call it higher plants. While lower plants that like what? Like agentum, like voyer, and most of the plants that they are called ferns. We have two different types, higher plants and lower plants. Higher plants, they are flowering plants, while lower plants, they are what? They are ferns. And also the primitive animals. Primitive animals here, it's mean what? Like unicellular living organisms or multicellular, like starfish, like hydra, like jellyfish. Those are primitive animals. Okay, the asexual reproduction happens for and most common in what? In plant kingdom and primitive animals. And what else? Also, the asexual reproduction needs one individual. It needs what? Just one individual. For your information, the new individual cannot face the change in the environmental conditions. By the meaning what? If you have male and female, okay, and they are get mating to reproduce or to give us a new individual. This individual will take every conditions of facing conditions resulting on their dad and mom, resulting on their parent. But in case of asexual reproduction, if the parent, I mean the individual that's responsible for sexual reproduction, it couldn't face the environmental condition before that, the new individual cannot also face those environmental conditions. So let's see it again. The new individual, it cannot face any change in the environmental conditions unless or except the parents had been adapted before to these changes. Get the difference? Okay, so the new individual cannot face any change in the environmental conditions. So there is no variations. There is no any tolerance in the environmental conditions and so on. And also it doesn't lead to variations. What does it mean doesn't lead to any variation? There is no variety, okay? Just one type of cells, it divides to gives us the same type of cell and so on. So as the new individual receive the same copy, okay, the same number of genetic material from the parent or male or female, which is reproduced asexually. And what else? And also it depends on mitotic division, mitosis, that doesn't include crossing over and variation. Let me to remind you with the crossing over phenomenon. As we said, in the sexual reproduction, for example, like human, we have male and female. In case of male, the sperm of male contains half of genetic material, and also the female ovum contains half of the genetic material, haploid and haploid. When they are mating, when the fertilization takes place, what happened? We have a phenomenon which is called crossing over phenomenon. Crossing over, it's mean what? Changing the genetic materials between two gametes. That give us what? A lot of variation and help the new individual to what? To adapt with environmental conditions. I hope you got the difference between mitosis and presence of crossing over and absence of crossing over. Types of asexual reproduction. We have a main 6 types of asexual reproduction. I'm going to count the asexual reproduction, and after that I'll discuss each one separately. Number 1, binary fission. Number 2, budding. Number 3, regeneration. Don't worry, I'm going to discuss each one by one, okay? Number 4, sporogeny, parthenogenesis, and the last one is tissue culture. We do it in plants. Let's start with the first type, which is binary fission. Well, binary fission, what does binary fission in the asexual reproduction? Well, it is a type of asexual reproduction in which what? The nucleus divides by mitosis division, and then the cytoplasm divides into two equal amount. Each one of them become a new organism, gives us a new organism. And what else? For example, we have different examples in unicellular living organisms. Like what? Like bacterium and simple algae. Okay, if you forget what does it mean unicellular? Uni, it's mean one, and cellular, it means cell. So unicellular, it means a living organism which consists of just only one cell, and this cell, it does all the vital and biological processes. Number 2, protozoa, such as what? Amoeba and paramecium. Again, we have a unicellular living organism like bacteria, like simple algae, and some protozoans like amoeba and paramecium. Well, and we have also a type of binary fission which is called repeated binary fission, or we call it encystment. Encystment, it's a kind of like a sphere or coat around the living organism, and almost it happens under unsuitable conditions. Like what? Under unsuitable conditions like dryness, like shortage of food or deficiency of food, some types of amoeba, they becomes a circular, okay? They surround themselves by chitinous coat for protection. Chitinous coat is kind of coating or envelope that surrounds the amoeba or the cell of the living organism to protect it from what? From these unsuitable conditions, okay? Like dryness, like extreme temperature or lower temperature. All of them, they are called what? Unsuitable conditions. And what else after that? What gonna be happen? The nucleus inside the circular form, which chitinous form, nucleus divides by mitotic division, okay, to form what? Uncountable number or a lot of nuclei, okay, many number of nucleus. And after that, after division, each nucleus surrounds itself by a part of cytoplasm. And to form what? To form a young individual. In case of amoeba, to form a young amoeba. So we have here something called repeated binary fission or encystment. Encystment is mean what? Envelope or chitinous coat. And it happens only under unsuitable conditions like dryness, like extreme temperature, like shortage or deficiency of food, and so on. Okay? Well, and after that, each nucleus surrounds itself by a part of cytoplasm to form a young amoeba. But what happened after that? Well, when the environments become favorable, when they are improved, the coat gonna be ruptured. What's mean by ruptured? The amoeba or the young amoeba, they are released from the cyst or from this coat, and they released out. Okay, they are discharged in the environment to form a new individual. Number two, the second type of asexual reproduction, which is budding, and it's a very simple type, and you can do it at home. We have an experiment, a nice experiment for it. Well, budding, it is what? It is a type of asexual reproduction that happens by formation of a bud, or a kind of bud which is lateral protrusion. Protrusion is mean increasing, I like bulk, from the original cell to form new individual by mitosis. We have an example to clarify or to simplify this type. Well, like we have example like yeast fungus. Okay, let's say it. Like what? Unicellular living organism and some type of multicellular. Unicellular, such as what? Yeast fungus, and also some types of fungus. Number two, we have like multicellular, like hydra, like sponge animals. Okay, do you know sponge? Yes, sponge is a multicellular living organism. But what happened in case of budding or like yeast fungus? Okay, let's give you experiment or activity to show us the reproduction by budding. Budding in yeast fungus. This is the example that we're going to discuss it. Well, what happened inside it? Simply, we have one cell. We have what? One cell. Okay, of what? Of the mother cell, or we call it the parent cell of the yeast fungus. Okay, the nucleus inside it, it divides into two nuclei. Okay, divides into what? In two nuclei. After that, a kind of protrusion or a bulk that arises laterally beside the cell. So we have the nucleus inside it, divides what? Divides mitotically, don't forget it. And the lateral protrusion form from the original cells to form what? To form the bud. And after that, as we said, the nucleus divides mitotically into two nuclei. And one of these cells, one of these nucleus, remains in the parent cell, in the mother cell, while the other migrates to the new cell. And after that, it has two choices. It may be separate absolutely from the mother cell, or it can still attach it to the mother form and form something called colony. So the bud grows gradually, and many remains of connecting to the mother to form colony or to separate to form new individual. This is the meaning of bud. Okay, so the budding reproduction, it happens by what? By formation of what? Formation of a parent cell. It gives a new individual. So the mother cell, it remains, while in case of binary fission, the mother cell disappeared. Do remember that, okay? The binary fission, in the binary fission only, the mother cell or the parent cell disappeared, okay? It doesn't remain anymore. And what else after that we have? We said that binary fission, budding, and also we have budding in hydra and sponge. But what the difference between them? Hydra and sponge, they are multicellular living organisms. Okay, they are multicellular. While in the yeast fungus, it's a unicellular living organism. The same sequence that happened in what? In hydra and sponge. The bud also grows as a cellular or cell protrusion or bulk from one side of the body. Okay, to form what? As a kind of division of interstitial cells. Interstitial cells, the cells that form or they are responsible for this process, which is called budding. And after that, the bud also grow gradually to resemble, and we said, what do you say, resemble, it's mean to look like, okay, to be the same, okay, copy paste of the mother cell, to resemble the mother cell or the parent cell, and it may be separate to complete its life, or maybe stay in form colony, and so on. This is the form of the shape of budding yeast fungus, okay? The large cell, which is the parent cell, and the small cell is what? Yes, it is the bud, which laterally protruded from the mother cell, and it appears as a bulk. The nucleus divides mitotically into two nuclei. One of them remains inside the mother cell, and the other doing what? It migrates to the new cell. After that, the bud, it has the choices. It may remain attached to the mother cell, forming something called colony, or it may separate, okay, absolutely separate from the mother cell to form what? To form a new individual, and so on. At the end of this episode, I hope you learned more about different types of asexual reproduction. Study hard. See you the next time.